From the operating room to the recovery ward, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jason Burns.
And I'm Danny Nucci, and this is the What About podcast. What about?
This one truly was a what about for us, Danny, because what about our subject kind of went out the window.
Out the window, which, by the way, I'm so happy it did.
Yes.
It was so, I was riveted to his story, which I am not going to tease out. But we spoke with Stephen Tobolowsky, which, by the way, we never got into. But you know, he's a guitar player. He played with with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I know, who was just Stevie Vaughan then, or Stevie Vaughan.
17-year-old Steve Vaughan. You know, and he's a director. He's a Tony-nominated actor. He's a Renaissance man, really, and
great storyteller,
and a great storyteller. Yeah. And he tells us one here, which ended up being the subject of this podcast. So without further ado, the extremely recognizable Stephen Tobolowsky. What about open heart surgery?
Speaking of a project you did with so-and-so, you did a project with Danny many years ago, Snoop's TV show.
Yeah, it's the one place we actually met. I was looking at your IMDb. It's the one place I couldn't believe it that was the only thing, but we worked on Snoop's together back in
Snoop's. Oh my God. And did you make that horrific drive down the coast?
See, this is where the Californians come in. Oh my God!
Well, man!
So you must not be on the West Side, Stephen, because
no,
I lived by the Hollywood Bowl. That was the drive I made.
Oh man, that's a terrible drive from the Hollywood Bowl. You might as well been in the ass cheek of hell. It's like that ride, because you have to get out of Los Angeles. You have to get your Thomas guide out, and you're going like, what county am I in? And you have to go down the road as if you're headed toward Mexico or something. I mean, what was that city? Where was that?
Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan Beach.
But it's like right, like deep Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan Beach was a place that a lot of people I worked with liked to live because they didn't work that often. So they could be out there. It's a beautiful place to be. It's gorgeous.
It's a beach community, actually, but the studio that we worked in that did a lot of the David Kelly shows.
David worked there a lot. I think I did three or four of the Snoops, and then I did, what was that, Boston Legal?
Yeah.
Boston Legal over there too.
So you do remember? That's fantastic. I can't remember. People come up to me and, do you remember that? I'm like, no.
It was a different world. Yeah. Sometimes I can remember. And so this is something that's really worthy of the podcast. I could hold it. I could wait till we're seriously recording.
No, we're seriously recording.
We're seriously recording now. Oh,
unfortunately, this is the podcast.
Then I should put my clothes on. I know. No, I know you're not doing video. I know.
You should get dressed, Stephen, for sure.
I found this amazing thing. I've had two terrible. Well, I've had several, but two really life-threatening injuries in my life. I broke my neck in 2008. And I had open heart surgery in 2011. Now, both of those I could have signed out. I could have checked out. They were both fatal occasions. And now I didn't know I was going to break my neck, but I did know I was going into surgery. And what I did before then was to write out things from my life that I thought would be interesting stories, or things that maybe I would want my kids to have known about their dad. And if I survived, I could write stories about them. And some of these things were amazing because I didn't remember them at all. And one of them, I was doing a movie. And it's just that the other shoe dropped on this story. So I was doing a movie out of town on the East Coast somewhere, and I thought, well, I'm in this hotel, and right across the street was like one of these Target, Kmart, Superstore. It had everything in it. It was a gigantic place. They had a grocery store. They had an auto repair thing. They had woodwork. I mean, it was a giant center.
Yeah, like a Costco or a Super Walmart or something. Sure.
So I thought I'm going to go in there and buy some stuff to eat at the motel across the street where I was staying. And I went and I'm walking down the food aisles, and there is a display for Crapple. 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 It is the.
I don't want to know. Can we move on? I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
It paid me $1 million to guess where this story was going.
No,
Crapple wasn't on there.
It is the cranberry apple juice.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, yes, of course. Crapple. Of course.
So I'm thinking
Ocean Spray.
So there's this big display of Crapple. Now, I've never heard it before, and like you, I'm going like, this is terrible marketing. This is like, who on earth is going to buy Crapple? But they have this big sign, Crapple, drink a glass of Crapple every day. And they have, I think, should I buy some Crapple? I don't know. So I don't buy the Crapple. I go down to the front of the store, I buy whatever I have, but it's haunting me. It's in the back of my mind. So I asked the checker. I said, Is Crapple an East Coast kind of thing? And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're selling Crapple back there. He says, what are you saying? He says, I've never heard of Crapple in my life. He says, you never heard of Crapple? Well, you got a big display, about 300 yards down this aisle. On the other side of the candy bars, you got a big display of Crapple back there, the cranberry apple juice. He goes, I've never heard of cranberry apple juice. I've never heard of Crapple. I go, so I drop the subject. Now, this is what I wrote in my story about this, but it came back again. I was in Los Angeles, and I was telling the Crapple story. I was shooting some AFI movie, some kind of thing. And he goes, oh, I know about Crapple. I go, you know about Crapple?
Who, the director or somebody, the person you're speaking to?
Yeah. It's somebody who worked on it. And he goes like, oh, there is no such thing as Crapple. We were shooting a student film on the East Coast, and we thought it would be a funny thing. But this store was so huge, we figured nobody would know we were in there.
Oh, that's amazing.
We were so poor, we had to steal our sets. So we made a Crapple display. We made the whole thing. And then as a crew, we kind of went in one at a time and kind of set up the bottles and everything. And you just happened to come in on one of the days we were shooting, you saw the Crapple display. Because as soon as it was done, we had to take it all down and get out of there so we didn't get arrested. So it was film people. This industry.
Of course it was this industry. Of course it was.
Industry that was responsible for Crapple.
But
I just thought,
you're going to show up at your door one day and there's going to be a case of Crapple waiting for you.
A case of Crapple.
Oh, God. And I thought, what an amazing thing that I found this just this week. I was going on my computer and I put in some odd word like tornado, and then I have
Crapple.
I have this document that's like 23 pages long that I did before I had to go into surgery. So there would be just some record of some of the things, like a diary of some of the weird things that happened.
That document?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait. Yeah. It's at least 12 years old. Yeah. We're talking, this was, about 2011.
So you have two experiences where you, like you said, you could have checked out. Like people have one and it changes their lives. What does two do? What does two give you for perspective?
Makes you grateful is what it does.
Makes you not want to drive down to Manhattan Beach anymore, right?
Makes you nuts. Limit. When they say don't sweat the little things.
Yeah,
you begin to really be able to pick the little things out of the barrel. When all your life is filled with little things, the little things seem quite huge. They're all big. And this is something I realize at one point, that you get just as upset over open heart surgery as you do about auditioning for a pilot. Except there's a lot more on the line. And
you mean on the pilot? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Spoken like a true actor.
It's like when, like, here's one change. Like, my wife and I now have been married, I want to say 34, 35 years, something like that. That's unique. But we had a turbulent marriage, ups and downs and all this kind of stuff. Then I broke my neck in 2008, and Anne had to do everything for me. She had to help me walk. She had to feed me. She had to bathe me in the shower. She had to do everything, and she did everything without one, just like, yes.
No
and I realized that for better or for worse clause in the marriage contract clicked in,
huh?
and she did it with such grace, and she did it with such care. I thought, wait, I had this all wrong. I married the completely right person in the world, because you need somebody who's going to be there with you. And she's just a little woman. She's only about so tall. She's like a gremlin, but she's like a hillbilly. She's small and stringy, but she's strong.
You don't want to mess with her, yeah.
When in 2011, when I had my open heart surgery, I had a docking error with the pee bottle, and I cannot tell you the whole. First of all, I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have gotten the open heart surgery. I had health insurance to get the. You know how much the open heart surgery cost?
Do we want to know? I mean, this
is 12 years
this
ago.
would scare me more than the open heart surgery.
This would be a good thing for people to get like prizes on your podcast.
Guess the jelly beans in the jar.
Guess the jelly beans. What are your
how
guesses?
Much Stephen Tobolowsky's heart surgery
I'm going to
costs.
take inflation into account because it's been 12 years.
2011.
Okay, so I'm going to guess $213,000.
Danny?
I'm going to go $146,000.
Okay. Not counting the surgeon's fee, just counting the hospital and everything they did, $480,000.
Oh, goodness.
And the surgeons, that doesn't count the surgeon's fee, which is close to $100,000 on top
that bill comes
of
separate,
that.
right? That's like the doctor's bill comes separate from the hospital
and
bill.
I had insurance. So I
Did
think
they kick you out of SAG? Did they kick you out of the SAG health?
Get out of here. We only want people. We get money from, not that we have to pay money to.
Pension health is like, Mr. Tobolowsky, thank you for being a loyal member, but goodbye.
Goodbye. We've had it with you, sir.
You've hit a lifetime's worth.
I think we only paid, I want to say we only paid $5,000.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Thank you, Screen Actors Guild.
It was 400
pension and health.
Like $480, not counting the $100,000 for the surgeon. And but what happens is this. So you go in to talk to your doctor, right? And they put marks all over you with Marks-a-Lot, black Marks-a-Lot, like where they're going to harvest veins and arteries for the surgery. So you're all covered with these marks all over the place. And after you do this, they check you out for pre-op, and they say, okay, tomorrow morning we want you to come at dawn. Come at 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning.
How ominous.
6 in the morning is Cedars-Sinai, and bring nothing. Bring nothing. No wedding ring, no glasses, no wallet, no ID, nothing.
Don't eat anything.
You
can't eat.
No. Oh, God, no.
No last meal
nothing.
for you.
And they say, today, for the rest of the day, go home, say goodbye to whoever you need to say goodbye to.
What?
Make sure that you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's with any business you have to do. And we'll see you at dawn in the morning. And you have to come in with a person. And that person has all of your ID and all that stuff. That person has all your ID. So you go in at 6 in the morning, and they do it not individually, but they do it as groups.
As a crew of people that are getting open heart surgery?
A crew.
Open heart surgery group this way.
So you have about So you have about 10 people who are getting open heart surgery at the same time. So apparently what they do is it's in a circle. And so these guys go to this person, this person, this person,
so
this
I'm
person.
just my visual head wants to wrap around this. So you guys are all open in the same room together. Open heart, heart of it all.
In different operating arenas.
Oh, okay.
They have different operating arenas. So the doctors go around once, and then they do their vodka shots, and then they go back around for the next stage of the surgery, and then back for the next. So anyway, you go in at 6:00 in the morning, and all the professional people at the hospital talk like FM DJs. So they go, "You are Mr. Stephen Tobolowsky?" And you're like, "Yes, Stephen, you are 51 years old, right?" "Yeah, that's right, right." And your person will be, and Anne is in tears.
Yeah,
my wife's in tears. And Tobolowsky, and Tobolowsky. Okay, so you go into the big room where you're waiting, and there are all the people that are going to get surgery. Let's say 10 of them, 8 or 10 of us. And they're all sitting there quietly with nothing. And then the person sitting next to them is in hysterical tears. Whether it is a husband, whether it is a wife, whether it is a father or a son, they are weeping, and they have bags of stuff. Your stuff, your wallet, your wedding ring, your stuff, your glasses, your stuff. And everybody else is quiet. And then they call you up to get in line, and you all get in line.
And everybody's pushing somebody else to the front. You go first. You go first.
No, they call you in order. They call you in order. They tell you,
so you're late. You're T. Tobolowsky, you're later, right?
So you come with your person, and you're all in a line like in elementary school, really, like first grade. You're all in line ready to go to lunch. So you're all in a line, and your other person is in tears. And so they open the door and say, "You'll come in here, and you'll follow, and then your person will see you when you come out of surgery." And so I say to Anne, "Okay, baby, I love you." I kissed her, and I said, "I'll see you on the other side." Not knowing that that's a phrase.
It's a horrible thing to say to your wife in those circumstances. That's absolutely horrible.
She punches me. She says, "What? Don't say that." I said, No. I meant I'll see you on the other side of the recovery room, and where they have us all recovering. And so then you go in these circles, and the assistants come in to shave you if you have a hairy chest or anything like that. They start putting these ports in your body where they're going to do all sorts of inject you with stuff, one into your jugular vein, so it goes straight to your brain, all sorts of stuff. Just amazing stuff. And while they're putting ports in me, the guy said, "You are the guy on Glee, aren't you?" And I go, yeah, I was the guy in Glee. "Oh, I love that show. I love that show. That was so great."
God.
And what song did you sing? I said, "Well, I really wasn't good enough to sing. They just I was just the music teacher. The other people sang." And they're like doing all this stuff to you. And then this doctor comes to me, the anesthesiologist, and he comes down and he gets to my ear and goes, "Now, I'm about to put you out, and I will be the first voice you hear when you wake up. Now, when you wake up, you must remember this. Do not speak. You're going to want to speak, but listen to me carefully. Whatever you do, don't speak. You're still going to have tubes down your throat into your lungs, and you'll choke if you speak. Do not speak."
I'll try to remember not to speak while I'm going under.
So he says, "Now, I'm going to count to 10, and just put your thumb up, and I'll know when you're asleep." And he says, "Now I'm starting." And I'm sure I was like, because I didn't even hear him say 9. I was like out. And This original thing is, what did you learn from all of this? I have to get back to your original question.
Wow.
So
unbelievable that you remember. That's incredible. I was down the rabbit hole to the surgery.
I got to get, I mean, the dreams I had while I was out were incredible. And you know who forgot not to speak? Of course. Me. So I hear the voice of two of my friends, Julie Haggerty and Richard Kagan, her husband, and they were waiting for me with Anne in the recovery room when I was coming
also
to.
known as
and
the
I heard,
other side.
Yes. And I heard Julie's voice. You know, Julie's voice is inimitable. Oh, it looks like I thought I saw Tobo's eyes moving. I thought I saw his eyelids moving. And so I hear Julie and I hear Anne and I hear Richard, and I try to do my thumb up like, I'm okay, I hear you, but I can't move my thumb. So I try to speak. No. And I start to die. And so I'm choking, alarms start going off. I hear feet running all over the place. And then the guy said, all right, I told you not to speak. Now we're going to have to take these tubes out.
He hits you with it. I told you so. That's nice. Yeah. Nice job, Doc.
In your defense, Stephen, he also told you the first voice you'd hear is his, not your friend's. So
right.
Not Julie Haggerty's voice.
Yeah, where was he? You know, he was dealing with all these other people. And I remember when I was, they take me, oh God, there's so many stories here. So I'm in the ICU. I'll do the ICU. I'm in the ICU for about 3 days. And this woman, Jane, is my nurse. And she is an older Filipino woman, I think, something like that. And so Jane is sitting up with me all the time. She never leaves my side, never goes and tends to another patient. She's with me the entire time. And it's the first night in the ICU. And Jane comes up and whispers to me and says, Stephen, we have to wash you now. It's going to hurt a lot. Jesus. I mean, if you could imagine Christopher Walken doing this, it would be perfect. You know, it's going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt a lot.
It's going to hurt a lot.
But we have to do this. We have to do this. But afterwards, I'm going to give you a drink of water and I'm going to give you warm blankets and it'll be so much better. But just, you could cry out whatever, just know it's going to hurt. And this man came in and started moving me. Now, when they do open heart surgery, your ribs are all broken. They break your breastbone open. Oof. So it's all broken. Oof. Like right now, I still have a screw here to hold my rib shut. So it's all broken. This guy starts lifting me and washing me. He washes my incision. He washes my privates. He washes my feet. He washes everything. Every move is excruciating.
Anybody that's had a broken rib or even a fractured rib is dying right now.
I can't. And then Jane comes to my ear while he's washing me. She says, I know it hurts. I know it hurts. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It'll be better soon. Just, I have water for you and a hot blanket. And so the guy finishes washing me and I'm like in absolute agony, like Hannibal Lecter just like did his worst on me. And Jane comes up, lifts my head up, gives me water, gives me a warm blanket. I'm there. She watches over me for 3 days before they send me to the cardio ward. I am in the cardio ward and I go, where is Jane? I wanted to thank Jane because it's in a whole different area of the hospital from where they do surgery and where you're in the ICU. It's a whole different section. It's the cardio ward. And they go, oh, she doesn't work here. And I go, what? Yeah, Jane.
Who's Jane?
Jane doesn't work here. Jane used to be the teacher, the woman who taught nurses how to be a nurse. And when you came in for your surgery, there weren't enough people. So we
they called her
called
in.
Jane at home and said, could you come and take care of this one patient? So Jane came solely for me.
That's awesome.
And it was the soul of mercy. Now, I'm in the ICU and they have care that's far less attentive than Jane.
Sure. At
So
this point,
the first,
you're just a hospital bed at this point, right?
I have to say, for a second there, Stephen, I thought the story was going to be that Jane was a ghost. I got a little, and she never worked here.
yes,
Existed.
you just, it's too much Stephen King in the, this is the real world. Jason, this is the real world. There are no ghosts. Well, there are ghosts.
He's not familiar with the
are
real
ghosts.
I live in a fantasy world.
He lives in his own world. But go on, Stephen.
Anyway,
so you're in the ICU.
Anyway, I'm in the cardio ward for 2 weeks. For them, like 10 days until I'm able to leave the hospital. And so the first night there, when you have open heart surgery, it's very hard to use your arms, because to move your arm, you utilize your chest, and it's excruciating pain. So I have a docking accident with the pee bottle the first night I'm there. So you have this bottle, and if you have to pee, you can't really get out of bed. So you're supposed to take the bottle and you're supposed to put it under the covers, pee into the bottle. Well, there was a mishap. That I was not able to get the bottle. I was not able to put it in the right place. And so I ended up peeing all over myself in the bed. So they give you...
now they got to take you out of the bed. You got broken ribs.
This a crapple bottle?
Miserable.
What? Is this a crapple bottle?
No, the crapple bottle. No. Yeah. Well, no. This was not as big as the crapple bottle. If it had been the crapple bottle,
you might have not missed as much. Sure.
I would not have missed. But when you go in there, they give you this changer. This looks like a TV changer. In fact, it is a TV changer, because you have a TV in front of you, and they come in and they explain, and the nurses are either from Russia or the Philippines. So they're always speaking to you with some accent, and they say, in fact, I used a pseudonym to go into the hospital, a name that I used when I used to go bowling with my brother, H.M. Grand Old Man Hughes, the oldest man on the professional bowling tour, when my brother and I would go play bowling together. So people wouldn't know that I was there, because they say sometimes if people who are on TV or film are in the hospital, people come in and take advantage of them. So I used H.M. Hughes. So the Filipino nurse I had could not pronounce Hughes, and he thought it was huge. So he keeps calling me Mr. Huge. Mr. Huge. Mr. Huge. This is, and so then I have this like 7-foot Russian woman, like this, must be a pole vaulter or something. And she's trying to explain to me this changer.
Shot putter.
A shot putter. Yeah, well,
sure.
She's tall and thin, all Russian, very Russian accent. So she's saying, here is changer. Now, if you want to watch home TV, you press this button. If you want to watch House Hunter, you press this button. If you want to watch cooking show, you press bit button. If you have you need a doctor, you press this button. And if you are dying, you press the blue button. So it's all in one, your life alert and House Hunters. So I'm in bed and I have the docking accident with the pee bottle. And so I press the doctor button, like for the doctor to come. No one comes. So I think like, oh my God. So I'm sitting there in my pee for about 10 minutes and I go like, I'm going to have to press the blue button.
9.5 minutes too long.
I'm going to have to press the I'm dying button to get somebody here so I press the blue button. No one comes. No one comes for 30 minutes. For 30 minutes. So the Russian pole vaulter woman comes in like expecting to see a corpse, I guess. I come in and I said, I had a problem with the pee bottle. And she takes the changer away from me and she says, you have misused the blue button.
Oh my God.
And I go, well, you didn't show up. So here's what I learned. Here's the lesson. This is the getting to the end of this story. Of course, there are many more stories that come from this. But the next morning, Anne, my wife, came, and I explained to her the whole thing. And she goes out into the hallway, a cedar sign, and she says, everybody in this room now. Everybody. Doctors, nurses, attendants, now. I mean it now. And so all these people come in like, you don't see this scene on ER. And she says, last night something happened to my husband that will not happen again. He needed help and no one came. So from now on, you bring a bed in here and I am staying in this room. And from now on, you are taking orders from me. You understand? You're taking orders from me. And they're all like, oh, okay. And she's this tall. I remember, she's like,
but they thought her name was Mrs. Huge.
And so I realized that that there are very few people in your life that you could count on to be your hero. And if you're out there looking for a mate, it's very hard because you don't ask the right questions. You go on these dates and you think like, well, do I want her hair up or down? And now guys are thinking, do I want her with tattoos or not tattoos? None of these things matter. You need somebody who's going to stand up for you when you can't stand up for yourself. And this is what you need in a relationship. And this is what people don't, it's what restaurant are we going to? Well, I don't know if I like, French food. It's too saucy for me. You start doing this stuff on dates, and that has nothing to do with the real work at hand. So for all you people out there who are looking for mates, look for heroes. You need someone that's going to stand up for you and protect you when you can't protect yourself. That's what I learned.
Were you ever able to connect with Jane again?
Never. Oh, no, I lied. I did see Jane again. I saw Jane again. What a miracle this was. Because I saw Jane again when I was leaving the 10 days after I was in the cardio ward. I was going down the elevator and I opened the door and there is Jane. And she is coming on with this little plant to bring to somebody in a room. And I go back up on the elevator with her and I go, thank you so much. Thank you. And she says, no, it was nothing. I said, are you working to? No, I'm just bringing this to somebody else who had surgery and they had no one to see them. So I was bringing this. I go, okay.
Is so Jane single? Because she's a hero.
Yeah. No, yeah, but she's in her 60s and all that kind of stuff. And there are heroes. There are people who, and it's difficult. And it's difficult, especially in this business where, in show business, where everything is so self-focused. How do I look? How does the shot look? What's my career looking like? That you get very inward focused on yourself, on your life. And it's difficult to get more. I think I never thought of this. Maybe that's why so many actors and entertainment people are activists. As kind of
to get out of themselves,
a counterbalance, because they go, oh, my life, it's all me. Oh, and so then they react and they go, let's go, march. Let's go march and let's do this and let's do that. Let's stand up and let's do something important for the country or for
create awareness, make people
aware.
Yeah. The amazing thing about people like Jane, though, is that Jane doesn't need any recognition. She's just doing it because she genuinely wants to help somebody else.
Yeah. And the problem is too, I guess, how everybody says, I'm holding this up and they can't see iPhones and all these kind of things are negative in our lives because we become addicted to them. That every time we post something on Facebook and we get a like, we get kind of a little charge out of it. And we do this. And people become very self-focused. But when you have outer focus, hey, in fact, That's one of the things Stanislavski talked about in acting, that the important thing was to be outward focused. Now, a lot of times when I've directed and I've worked with actors, they're always worried about what emotion am I going to do at this moment. And they're all inward focused, and they're not looking at what's happening around them. They're not outward focused. Stanislavski always says, life exists in the eyes of the person you're playing a scene with. And outward focused.
Meisner was the same way. It was all about put your attention on the
outward
person.
focused.
Yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah, because what's funny is a lot of people, and you've worked with a lot of people that have been very, very successful. Once you hit a certain amount of praise and success, and people go, "Oh, you're terrific," it starts to become empty. It starts to become something that is fine, but then you want to do more. You want to contribute.
Oh, well, it's like, I'm famous enough to where people recognize me everywhere in the world.
Stephen, you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. Even if they don't know your name, they know exactly who you are.
And I'll point this out too. My kids who are 10 and 7 love the Loud House. So if they heard your voice right now, they would be like, "Oh, I know who that is," instantly. And so it's like cross-generational as well.
And a shout out to the Loud House. I just did a Loud House yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're starting a new season. So, but yeah, I can't go into Gelson's. I can't go in the grocery store without someone coming up and going, "Bing! Has anyone ever said that to you?" And I go like, yeah. Once or twice. Yeah. I was in France.
No, you're the
I
first.
was in France. I was in the forest of southern France. And this guy looks, is Ned. Ned.
He's Ned. You're Ned.
Actor. And in France, the name of Groundhog Day is not Groundhog Day. It is the day without end. Something like that.
Of course. Sure. Makes sense. They don't know from Groundhog Day.
There's no benefit to that. You take a look, you understand why Brad Pitt or George Clooney, have to move to places where nobody could see them. Where nobody, where it's like, George has to go to Lake Geneva or whatever, and Brad has to find Lake Como.
Lake Como in Italy. That's right. Northern Italy. That's where George
Brad
has
to like live up the coast somewhere in this isolated area, because otherwise it's not a good thing to be recognized.
Yeah. Like if that gentleman who recognized you pre-surgery, if he wanted to, and you're famous enough, he could sell that story to whoever he wanted to instantly. And that's the scary part of it all.
Yeah,
right?
Mr. Huge. I still, this day, from Cedar Sinai, get mail addressed to Mr. Hughes. Yeah, H.M. Hughes.
By the way, did Hughes get the bill? I'm just curious.
That's what I was going to say. The $400,000.
SAG got the bill.
SAG got the bill. Thank you again, SAG.
Well, Stephen, we talked a little bit over email about your new project, the Hallmark project. I'm curious why you think, and maybe this ties into everything we're talking about, just like humanity and where we are, but why these holiday movies are resonating now more than they ever have. Like, even if you go back 10 years, like people weren't as psyched about these kind of projects as they are now.
Yeah. The thing about the Hallmark movie, and I could write a dissertation about this, a Hallmark movie has a certain formula. I mean, all things, James Bond movies have a certain formula to where, we're going to begin with the big fight scene and the big chase, and then we're going to have the girl. And, Hallmark movies are unique in that, first of all, they're female-centric. The leading character is usually a woman. And she is, and I explained this to one of the Hallmark executives, so and they were very amused by this, so I don't think they'll sue me for this. The story pretends to be about something in her career, but it never is. And usually she has a kind of artistic career. Either she's an editor, a writer, working on a book, working on some sort of thing. But usually there is something in her life that she had skipped over, that she had missed. And the Hallmark Christmas movie is about finding what it is you missed and recovering it. That's the real gift of the movie. And it's all kind of hidden in there. And the fact that the guy is the guy, and that you're able to have a relationship after you find this thing that was missing in your life. And I was saying to the Hallmark executives, I said, and then you could wear the red dress. Now, and she started laughing. And I said, no, seriously, why do you wear a red dress to a party? Who wears a red dress to an event?
To be seen, right? Because it stands
It
out.
is someone who, you're not doing it because it's your best look. You're not doing it because you want to be it makes you seen. It makes you the center of attention, is that you are not afraid to be seen anymore. So it is a kind of symbolic gesture to say, here I am. This is what I am. And once you're able to do that, then you're ready to find love. And I think there are a lot of people who the message is resonating with now, because it's so hard to find love now. It is so hard. It's not a given. When I was a kid, it was kind of a given. In fact, people were married usually in high school when I was a kid.
Especially where you're Texas, right? Isn't that where you're from? I mean, everybody got married.
Everybody got married in Texas, and you usually got married either between 18 and 23. You were married, and either you stayed married to that person for your entire life, or something. It wasn't what happens now, and that now it is very, very difficult for people to be in relationships.
And that's interesting, Stephen, because those movies have these couples meeting in real world circumstances, where nowadays most people meet online.
Yes, they meet online.
Yeah, most people that I meet that are a couple, they're like, oh yeah, we met online. So Stephen, we have an audience question, and this is the audience question for you. Teddy F says, and we were talking about personalities and people. He says, I took this question from an online character quiz. I guess it speaks to character, but I'm not sure how. Still thought it was good. And the question is, how do you respond to criticism?
Oh, criticism. It all depends on the motivation of the criticism. It all depends on what the criticism is and what it is. Now, is he talking about where you're working on a project?
I think just in general, in terms of, what kind, a way that defines who you are. We've been talking about, heroes and people with character.
Inner you, yeah.
I think a lot of times when you work with good people, and as the longer you work, the more likelihood you're going to work with better and better people. Like, I ended up amazingly working with Norman Lear. I worked with Norman.
God rest his soul.
God rest his beautiful, beautiful soul. And so, you work for Norman. You have someone who's kind of exquisite with criticism, like he is, because generally that criticism comes not of just saying you're doing this wrong, but it usually comes as a suggestion. Well, what if this were? He begins a conversation in the criticism, like, what? How do
searching for the solution?
Yeah, how do you feel if this were to happen in this situation? And the better people you work with, the more their criticism comes as an opportunity for a dialogue. Like, how do you feel about this moment? I'm feeling like this moment is not working, not necessarily because of you. Usually it's always because of the script. When you're doing film or television, it's almost always because of the script, because you're working with a script that's been written and rewritten by a group of people, usually not just one person, but usually a group of people piled over. And so there are inconsistencies in that script that the actor has to make whole, has to make as one piece.
Like Jason writes by himself.
When you work on, if you work on a play on Broadway, you you are dealing with a piece of work that has existed, like when I did Mornings at 7, that's existed for decades, is an award-winning play. Every line, every word has to be perfect. When you work on film and television, a lot of times they ask you to improvise to make the scene more perfect. And so in terms of improvising, this I guess gets back to the answer. The ultimate answer is, I think it's a Stanislavski thing again, that you always ask yourself 2 questions whenever you're working. First of all, you never take criticism seriously. It's always about the character. If they say things to you like, well, you suck, then I go like, well, who's the guy who cast me? You.
Somebody else's fault.
So
I
you
like it,
suck
Stephen.
too. You suck too, buddy. So that goes nowhere. But you try to get the conversation onto the work and not personal. And it's always between a tightrope between what is your greatest hope and what is your greatest fear as a character. So if you could answer those 2 questions, usually any decision you make as a character in a TV show or a movie or on stage is going to be related to your greatest hope or your greatest fear, and where that is on that tightrope. And so if you could maneuver the conversation, the critical conversation about your performance, to what your greatest hope or greatest fear is, then you get it into a constructive area. Now, I've worked with directors that were either at the beginning of their career or they weren't particularly good, and they'll start off coming up to you, well, that sucked.
Have you worked with some screamers, Stephen?
Huh?
You work with any screamers?
I did, but they were kind of closet screamers. The other way, in other words, they were screamers to other people, and then they come look at me and go like, "That was just for them."
Yeah, that was just for them.
That was. But one person who I guess I could say was a screamer was Alan Parker. When we did Mississippi Burning, he would get very mad if things were wrong, but and he would yell at, what are you doing? He'd get very, he would motivate you that way. But as an actor, he was so giving and caring. And so it was a show. It was a show he did,
Sure.
but
Sure.
I've run into usually directors that are just starting, or directors that are trying to work their way up. They have a lot of people watching over them, and they have a lot of pressure. They scream. They could scream. And certainly in college, there were screamers. Yeah, there were screamers. But,
Well, we were going to talk about character, but you know what we were actually talked about was an incredible open heart surgery story. So our subject today is open heart surgery.
Yeah, no kidding.
Thank you for that. That was, I mean, I was riveted, Stephen, and I'm glad you no one would ever know you are just as sprightly and energetic and effervescent as you've
thank
always
you.
been.
But if you look at the story, it did cover character between Jane and Anne and their experiences. Through your experience, you can see the character
people. And if you're an actor, greatest hope and greatest fear, that will determine any character you try to portray.
How about that? Little life-changing tidbit right there.
And if all else fails, grab a jar of crapple.
I mean, I could have we should have just gone into acting from there. So, Stephen, let me ask you, because he was right to keep talking about acting tips and helping young actors, which would have been great. We should have done that. Tips for Young Actors by Stephen Tobolowsky.
Did you see me listening to his story? I had like both fists under my chin.
Literally,
I was like,
well, I wish the listener could see. You were friggin' riveted. And usually you're the one asking the questions, but you had no questions to ask.
No, I didn't want to.
He
was just, you could like, he was getting emotional, yet he was finding humor in it. There was like it took us the whole journey.
You could tell. I mean, this was this was a life-changing event. Because it's life and death. And I love what he touched on, as actors, like the role in getting a pilot that feels like life and death. This was actually life and
Yeah.
death. And it was just so sweet to listen to talk about Anne, or as you call her, Mrs. Huge.
This is huge.
Yeah, this was an interesting one.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that ICU waiting for
Can you
a
imagine what
heart
she called
recovery
everyone in?
ward. Yeah. Oof.
Anyway, yeah.
We're having Stephen back. Am I right? They're having him back.
Well, we got to have Stephen back for sure. Well, we definitely have to have Stephen back. And I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening.
Music by Denny Nucci. Produced and edited by the same two people you heard hosting this show, because they have no friends.